Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first meeting of 2024. We wish you all a happy new year. Ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin.
Here.
Councilmember Zimmer.
Here.
Councilmember Dewey.
Here.
Councilmember Givens.
Here.
Councilmember Litso.
Here.
Councilmember Sears. And Councilmember Warts is absent.
Thank you. And we welcome to the dais tonight our Deputy City Clerk, Bridget Waters, who's handling affairs tonight. Thank you. And don't hesitate to tell any of us if we do something wrong.
Especially.
Three public hearings tonight. The first is a request for an amendment to the B5 final site plan and special use permit for a drive-through facility for a 7 Brew restaurant at 1147 South Kirkwood Road. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. I would offer as Exhibit 1, the affidavit of publication verifying the notice of public hearing appeared in the St. Louis County. Exhibit 2 is an affidavit of publication verifying the notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 3 is the viewer map showing the property that is the subject of the public hearing as well as the surrounding properties. Exhibit 4 is a list of property owners to whom notice of this hearing has been sent. Exhibit 5 was a report of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the amended subcommittee report, from the Planning and Zoning Commission dated December 6, 2023. And Exhibit 6 is a report of the Planning and Zoning Commission dated December 20, 2023, in which they reported by a vote of 7-0. The commission recommended approval of a B5 final site plan amendment and a special use permit at 1147 South Kirkwood Road, in the Kirkwood Crossing Shopping Center for 7 Brew, a drive-through coffee restaurant. Exhibit 7 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Thank you, John. Mr. Hawes, who will present this to the council?
Planner 2, Amy Lowry.
Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the subject site is in the Kirkwood Crossing shopping center, and it has been a leased parcel, not a separate property in the shopping center since the 80s, and there's been a restaurant on that site. Right now, there is an Arby's which has closed. So the area of redevelopment is about 41,000 square feet. And then that's just a little bit closer view of the overhead and some photos of the surrounding area. If you're not familiar, this is right out in front of the Hobby Lobby. So the proposed site plan, they do propose to redevelop most of the lot. There's a retaining wall along here, but they will be redeveloping the entire portion of the lot. And they will be taking down the Arby's building. And they propose to put in 2 buildings. One is a restaurant building with it is kind of a 2-story building because it has a mechanical room on top, and then a cooler building. They're prefab buildings. The 2-story building's about 800 square feet and the cooler is about 280 square feet. They are proposing, let me go back to this, 2 drive-through lanes. So the entrance will be on the north side of the site, and there's going to be 2 drive-through lanes that come up, and under this canopy is where they will give the drinks out. So it's a drive-through drink. They do not even have food. So the required building setback from Kirkwood Road is 40 feet. That's met. The project requires 8 parking spaces, and they're providing 12 that'll be right here adjacent to the drive aisle in the shopping center. And the project also requires 1 bike rack. They're providing 2 that are in this area. Queuing length for a drive-through is 9 feet by 160, and that's surpassed in both of those drive-through lanes. And the applicant has proposed signs because from the parking, there will be a pedestrian crossing to get to the building for anyone coming from the shopping center or for employees. They will have signs there that say yield to pedestrians, and will be a striped crosswalk. And the proposed landscaping does meet the city's requirements. They're required 10 canopy trees along Kirkwood Road and 39 shrubs, and there are over 100 shrubs already on the property. So, and then they will have a canopy tree at each end of the new parking spaces. And then the dumpster is here, and it is, there'll be shrubs on 3 sides as required. And as far as new lighting, they will put in 4 pole-mounted lights, 1 building wall pack, and 43 under canopy lights. We do need a little bit more changes to the lighting plan. We need some additional lighting points, and we do need to confirm with the applicant on some of their buildings. They do have some LED stripe lighting, which we don't allow unless it's undercover. So we need to make sure that that is in accordance with the city's lighting regulations. So the conditions of note from the Planning and Zoning Commission, they put in the hours of operation permitted as 5:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and then 5:30 to 11 on Friday and Saturday. They did want to make sure that the internal pedestrian crosswalk was striped with high visibility markings and provided with signage. We do need the revised lighting plan. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission was concerned about the drive aisle that's adjacent to the site. And they wanted the applicant to contact the property owner to see if there could be some traffic calming put in this drive aisle here. When we were out on site, there were quite a few cars that were speeding through there. The shopping center does have some speed humps up next to the stores. And so that was just a request to see if something could be done from the shopping owner. In fact, staff has emailed the shopping center this week also to request the same type of thing. So that's all I have. If I'm available for questions, and there's oh, I'm sorry, I didn't go through just the SUP review criteria. There are 14 items that you should be reviewing, and then also site plan review criteria. There are 19 criteria for that. So, and the applicant has a representative here as well.
Does the applicant rep want to say anything or just answer questions? Whatever you want.
I'm here to answer your questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I'm happy.
All right, thank you very much.
Want to provide clarity on the traffic calming devices. Obviously, this applicant doesn't own the shopping center, just has a lease on that particular property, so we can't compel this applicant to install calming traffic devices on property that it doesn't own, doesn't lease. We're hopeful that we can convince the owner of the shopping plaza that it's the right thing to do, and to avoid liability for themselves, they really should do that. They'll talk to their employer about that.
Thank you, Mr. Hessel, for adding that.
We've had that come up before. Yep. You know, where times try to compel a tenant or, you know, a lessee to do something, they didn't have the power to do that. So, all right, thank you. Amy, do we have any council questions tonight? Councilmember Zimmer, you go first
Yeah.
tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you. On the parking spaces there, do they know how many employees they're gonna have and how many spaces that they would use up for employees, leaving how many spaces for the general public?
In the report, I think that they have 7 or 8 on a shift, and then more employees than that. So, but even if they're providing 12 spaces here, and then, there are also spaces in the parking lot as well, that make the shopping center.
I'll have for now. Thank you.
Take from this side. Oh, we'll go in order tonight as Councilmember Gibbons.
Back to the parking.
How are folks that are parking, is there a sidewalk from like the north end of the parking?
Yes, there's a sidewalk here and then in through the crosswalk. And then,
Folks that park down here at the north end.
north end.
Are they walking on this place where the cars are zooming by to get to the?
Well, this is also, this section here is landscape rock is what they're proposing. So I guess they could walk on that, get to.
No, only. Remember.
No, when you're parking.
It when the employees are.
No,
parking,
understand, but I
yeah.
just understand it is employees. It's not it's public.
We don't care about that.
No, 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 no. But the public, the public,
Employees.
no, but I'm saying you don't have the public going in and out. So
No,
that's,
but
that's a valid question. I just want to clarify for everyone that
and it just seems like that they're gonna have to walk in this road where people are going fast, he said, or walk on rock, and that doesn't seem. Lane here. And why are we doing landscape rock and not grass?
That's what the applicant proposed. There's no requirement for any landscaping. The only landscaping requirement is along Kirkwood Road because it's, this is basically an interior lot, so it's not like it has side setbacks or rear setback.
I mean, it'd certainly be easier for an employee to walk on grass than on landscape.
The subcommittee did discuss, the landscape rock and their preference for seeing some kind of turf, but that was not put as a condition.
I would prefer. And then you said that 100 shrubs are gonna be left?
There's that already on the property.
Yeah, so they'll be left, all 100.
They're mostly, already on Kirkwood Road. And then there is some landscaping over here that's going to be left too. There's a couple of trees and some shrubs in that area as well.
One thing I'm interested in is what the Kelvin of the lighting that's going in there will be.
I'd have to refer to the applicant on that. I don't have that in front of me.
I would have to, get for you as well. I believe, not sure if it's listed in our lighting package or not. But that's information we can definitely get for you.
definitely has to meet the code.
Right.
Right, I mean, it's.
There are,
Down is coming up.
there's a lot of detail about the products.
Yeah, the cut sheets will have it, but there's no code requirement related to Kelvin lighting temperature. It doesn't affect the lighting value and we don't, so that's not in the code, so we don't evaluate it. I don't know if you have the cut sheet. Yeah, I mean, it's not legible on the screen, but it'll be in here in this cut sheet and we can, or in this one. So it'll be in each of those cut sheets. It'll show you what the Kelvin temperature is. So.
It's just, just so the rest of the council knows that the James put in 3,000 Kelvin lighting. So, they did that. That's what they're doing on all their properties.
Honestly, staff we have no idea of what private development has been doing for Kelvin. That may be common that everyone's done, not just the James. I assume that we don't regulate it. We've never evaluated it. I wouldn't call out the James in being specific because I think that could be very common for most developments. A lot of developments are doing very common LED. So just to call out one doesn't seem.
But the illumination that has to be the code.
Yeah, so our foot candle, what we measure is foot candle levels and the Kelvin temperature of lighting doesn't, I mean, I can't say, I'm not an expert, I can't say it doesn't affect that, but at different Kelvin temperatures, you can still meet our foot candle lighting levels of illumination for minimum and maximum.
Sorry. Okay. Let's see, Councilmember Litzo.
Thank you. Let's see, so there's not going to be any outdoor seating, right?
No outdoor seating, and I may not have mentioned it also, there's no outdoor menu boards or speakers either.
Right, it's just going to be a QR code.
Correct.
something or other, little sandwich, something,
So
where you like use your phone to get the menu?
the best example that I can come up with, if you haven't seen one of our drive-through, if you see like Chick-fil-A when they're very busy, we have texters out. So we have people out in lanes, walking up and down, taking everybody's order. So we don't have like speaker boxes. We're built on building relationships with people. So you'll see the 2 lanes. We have people standing at lanes the whole time. So while you're waiting for your drink, they'll be having conversations with you. The texters, what we call texters, order takers, basically. They're the ones that allow us to have a really fast, high level of service. So our average ticket times from the time that you place your order to the time you get your order is under 4 minutes. So they fly through there. But yeah, there's no like boxes, there's no, we don't close a window in your face. You just pull up, we have conversations with people all day long. And we found it, it's great for building relationships with people. We think it's really key to our business. So that's why we do it.
I know it's working for Chick-fil-A, at least I've read, so.
Yeah, they're doing all right. I think.
Evidently
They're
for you
doing
guys too,
okay.
because I checked out ratings for you guys and saw like high ratings. I'm not familiar with 7 Brew. So no outdoor seating. Regarding though, the served customers making a left turn out of the site at that intersection, is that about, what, 30 feet from the exit lane to that corner there? You know what I'm talking about? Yes. And you've got incoming traffic. I'm an Aldi shopper and I make that right turn there. And yes, it is very busy. And yes, people drive like maniacs. So I'm just wondering, what was the discussion about that? Because I'm wondering about people making left turns as people are, because it's kind of a narrow lane there, between the edge of your property and then the parking just to the west of it. So I was just wondering, because we can't compel whoever it is over there that manages Pace or whoever, we can't compel them to put in traffic calming. We can only request it, but I'm just wondering what was the discussion?
There
Planning,
was
zoning?
discussion, but the 2 lanes will come out into 1 lane coming out here. So while there was some discussion that might be, difficult, there wasn't, the P&Z didn't have a huge concern over that.
Okay. Okay. Let's see.
And I think part of it too was their peak time will be before most of the shopping center is open as well.
That's a good point. So, let's see. Along Kirkwood Road there's some, like islands, landscape islands that may or may not have their trees. All of those are going to be brought up into compliance as far as our landscaping code, right?
Yes, but the trees are gonna go. So those are staying. There's a couple of trees going in them, but most of the trees are gonna be out of those landscape islands.
Okay, but just as long as it's all going to be brought up, because I'm not sure that it's currently, there might be some trees missing. I'm not positive. Let's see. I guess that's it for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Sears.
My question is really about hours of operation. I wanted to know from city's side what interest it had in limiting hours of operations for this kind of shop in this area. What issues are sought to be addressed by that? And then from it's possible that that's just the hours that business plan was created, that's the hours they wanted to stay open. But I don't want to constrict needlessly, like for no purpose, just put some hours in there. But if there's a purpose, I'd like to hear.
Generally for special use permits, we do put hours of operation because sometimes it is crucial, but I don't remember if this one, I know there was discussion on some of these, whether it was the permitted hours, which means it could be open, or whether it was shall be permitted, that they could be open those times, but they don't necessarily have to be open those times. If you're concerned about giving them more leeway,
Yeah, it's
Then-
an operation like this, a cup of coffee for some people at 3 in the morning could be like to grab.
For our standpoint, those are the hours that we operate the business at, so that works perfect. We found that those are just the hours that work. Could argue that maybe 9, 10 o'clock at night, we're not that busy, and we're not, but that's what we found is the best for our business, so that's why that's.
That's something that perhaps you put in your proposal in your papers somewhere.
I imagine it would have been a part of that, because that's where, so I oversee the Missouri market for us, and all of my stands run those exact same operate, or those hours, so.
That's it. I just wanted to be sure that we weren't putting in a restriction without purpose.
Anything else from council right now? Councilmember Gibbons?
I just wondered how, coffee's delivered, especially to that outer lane.
We have, people coming in and out, so the two people at lanes, they basically will either have somebody run the drink out and just hand it to the person at lane, or the person from lane will come in and just pick it up, just walk it out. They hustle, they run.
Well, I think it's a great location.
Yeah, I'm glad to see something go in there.
We're excited, like, and a lot of these, they're more in-person meetings that I go to, but, you know, you guys have us go meet on the site and check it out, and it was great. I wish everybody did that. It made a lot of sense, and to get, like P and Z's perspective on it was very helpful, so.
Thank you. Do we have anyone wishing to speak on this?
Mayor and council, there are no requests for comment at this time.
Thank you, David. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Thank you. I assume you're Brandon.
I'm Joe, actually.
You're Joe. You're not Brandon. Where's Brandon? His name's on everything.
Brandon's based out of Northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville area, so we actually grew up together, and I'm just his send me wherever all over the country
All right,
guy. So
Joe, thank you for coming.
appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Again, this public hearing is closed, and this will be on our new business agenda on next meeting, January 18th. All right. We'll go to our second public hearing, which is a request for a special use permit for major animal facility for Animal Eye Associates at 10328 to 10330, 10332 Manchester Road in the Green Tree Center. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor. I'd offer Exhibit 1 is the affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in St. Louis County. Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 3 is the viewer map showing the property that is the subject of the public hearing, as well as surrounding properties. Exhibit 4 is a list of property owners to whom notice of this hearing has been sent. Exhibit 5 is a memorandum from Amy Lowry directed to the Planning and Zoning Commission concerning the special use permit for a major animal facility for Animal Eye Associates, dated December 6, 2023. And Exhibit 7 is report of the Planning and Zoning Commission, dated December 7, 2023, which by a vote of 7-0, the commission recommended approval of special use permit for a major animal facility for Animal Eye Associates at 10328, 10330, 10332 Manchester Road in the Green Tree Center. And Exhibit 7 is the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Thank you, John. Mr. Hawes, who will present this to the
That'd
council?
be Amy Lowry again.
as we've already mentioned, this is in the Green Tree Center, which is at the southeast corner of Manchester and Woodlawn, and it's approximately in this area of the center. And photos of the center, the Animal Eye Associates is already in the 11328, and they are expanding into 11330 and 11332, which was recently vacated by the Master Kim's Karate. Master Kim's Karate went into the what was the former Gold's Gym. They took half of that and then Clark Animal Hospital is taking the other half of that portion. So, and this is where it is. Again, here's a schematic of the shopping center, and they are about right here, and a floor plan. So an animal facility major is a use that was created in the zoning code that we adopted in February 2021. And that's for facilities designed for boarding, breeding, or medical care of animal and pets. Under the previous zoning code, animal hospitals were a permitted use in the B3 zoning district if they were wholly conducted within an enclosed building. So in 1977, an emergency animal clinic was approved for occupancy in the original suite. And in 1990, Animals Eye Associates was approved for occupancy and took over the space. Because of the expansion, this is expansion of a special use. So that's why we're here for this special use permit review tonight. The facility is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And all surgery patients are released the same day. So there's no overnight stays or staffing. There are 15 employees, including doctors, and the maximum shift is Mondays, in which there are 9 employees and 1 doctor on site. So there's no outdoor uses proposed, and there will be sound buffering in the plans against, in this wall, which is against the next tenant space. And there's no issues with parking at the Green Tree Center with this use. So the planning zoning commission conditions of note were the hours of operation 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and the prohibition of overnight boarding services. And SUP review criteria, there are 12 condition or criteria plus an additional 2 criteria. So I will be happy to answer any questions, and the architect, Mr. Ulig, is here as well, representing.
Would you like to say anything before or just? Okay, great. Thank you so much. So basically, this is just an expansion of the current use. There's no
That is
change in
correct.
operation. Okay. All right. Anything from council? Member Zimmer?
Just a quick question. Thinking back, Mayor said, is there going to be any wall?
I think there is on the plans because, yeah, obviously they need to get from one side to the other. Whoops, let me go back. Yes.
Right here, we have connection. Their thought is basically the operation would move over to this side, and then we'll have some redevelopment of the existing plans, but they wanted to keep it isolated from construction.
Thank you, Carl. Councilmember Dewey?
Just a quick question. So nobody stays overnight. Okay, and where are waste facilities? Do you take the animals outside at all, or?
About this a little bit, and the doctor had said that once the dogs are sedated, that basically that's the system. They may have, while they're waiting for surgery, dogs in, they can see that they basically take. Like I said,
Okay, and it's just dogs.
dogs and cats.
Okay.
I don't know if he does. That's all that
Okay.
I've seen.
Yep. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Member Gibbons, anything? Member Linsov, anything? Councilmember Sears, anything? All right. Do we have anyone wishing to speak on this?
Mayor and council, there are no requests for comment at this time.
Well, with that, make sure nothing further from council. Okay, with that, this public hearing is closed and this item will be on our new business agenda on January 18th. Thank you. We'll go to our final public hearing, which is a request for a text amendment for personal and commercial service in the I-1 Light Industrial District. Mr. Hessel, do you wish to enter any exhibits into the record?
I would, Mayor, again, I would offer as Exhibit 1, the affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the St. Louis County. Exhibit 2 is the affidavit of publication verifying notice of public hearing appeared in the Webster Kirkwood Times. Exhibit 3 is a memorandum from Amy Lowry to the Planning and Zoning Commission concerning text amendment for personal and commercial service in the I-1 Light Industrial Zoning District, as well as the text being attached to that memorandum. And Exhibit 4 is the report of the Planning and Zoning Commission, in which they, by a vote of 7-0, the commission recommended approval of a zoning code text amendment changing the personal and commercial service use from special to permitted in the I-1 Light Industrial District. And Exhibit 5 is Code of Ordinances of the City of Kirkwood.
Mr. Hawes, I'm not even going to ask who's going to present this to the council.
You get a 3 for tonight.
Amy in a box.
This one is not going to have a lot of slides, but more discussion, so. So this is going to be kind of a little zoning primer, if you like. Our previous zoning code, if you recall, any of you were on the council at the time, had each district, under each district had a list of permitted uses or special uses. And if you weren't on that list, then we had to amend the code to add it or to tell you that you couldn't do that particular use in the city. So when we redid the zoning code in 2021, we grouped a lot of things together. And so instead of listing a bookstore and a gift shop, we just created categories like retail uses or restaurant uses. Well, we created a category that we called personal and commercial services that took in a lot of different uses. They were defined as establishments primarily engaged in providing services generally involving the care of a person or a person's possession. So some of the examples that fall under this are laundromats, barbershops, beauty salons, nail salons, massage therapy, physical therapy, printing services, health and fitness studios, and similar uses. So if someone comes to city staff to say, can I do this particular use in this zoning district? If we think it fits under personal and commercial services, then we can approve that. But what we did also do is instead of listing all of those uses, we have a chart whereby you look at the zoning district across the top and then list all of the uses down the side. And then you would go over and see, is it permitted, the P, permitted with standards, PS, or does it require a special use permit? So when we redid the code, we put personal and commercial services as a special use in the light industrial district. Purpose of the light industrial district is to encourage light industrial uses and small scale craft manufacturing, which create a minimal amount of nuisance outside the structure and which are not noxious and offensive. So the city does have an interest in conserving industrial zone land for future industrial uses. And so not all of the uses that are permitted in our commercial districts are considered appropriate or desired in the industrial district. For example, a retail use is also a special use permit in, I gotta go back down the August. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading my chart because it's, is it too below? Oh, there we go. Okay, too far. A retail use is also a special use permit in the industrial district, and a restaurant, which is right below, we don't even allow in the industrial district. So while all of the uses that are grouped in the personal and commercial services use category, they were permitted previously though in I-1. With the new code adoption, the city staff and the city's consultants thought that some more customer intensive uses may not be appropriate in the industrial district. And that's why we made it a special use. But the applicant, Mr. Meskel, has buildings at 111 and 113 Prospect Avenue that are in the industrial, are zoned industrial. And he has tenant spaces in there that are some personal and commercial uses, personal and commercial services uses, excuse me, that were approved before the zoning code changed in February 2021. So those uses can remain in those buildings as long as the spaces are continually occupied by those uses. So they'd be non-conforming uses. But tenant spaces that currently don't have a personal and commercial service use have to apply for a special use permit. And if they want to occupy that tenant spaces. So this fall, we had applicant come, I believe she was an esthetician, and she wanted to occupy a space in the 111 Prospect Avenue building. And we had to tell her, you would need to apply for a special use permit in order to do that business in that space. So the petitioner has been renting in those two buildings in particular, two uses that are classified as personal and commercial services for almost 20 years. And didn't realize that the zoning code would make those uses non-conforming now and needing special use permits in the future for new uses. He considered rezoning the properties to B3 to match some of the other buildings he owns on the south side of Prospect Avenue, which are zone B3. But those buildings also do have warehouse components that he would not be able to continue as light industrial uses if he then rezone the buildings to B3. So we're kind of in a situation where he's requesting the zoning code change so that when he has tenants that fit these, you know, massage therapists or personal health therapists, that these tenants do not have to come and get a special use permit every time. So that's the request. City staff believe that with 3 years experience with the new zoning code, that there are multiple areas in the light industrial district that were built more as office park than warehouse. And these types of buildings could be accommodating to the personal and commercial services use. So it was staff's recommendation, and Planning and Zoning Commission did also vote to recommend to you that the table be revised to make personal and commercial services a permitted use in the I-1 district.
So in essence, before, whatever, 21, we did that. This would not have been an issue, correct?
That is correct. That was a long-winded way of saying that.
No, no,
I'm
no,
sorry. I was trying
no,
to
that
give
was
you all a,
Make sure I got it right.
yes,
So this is, would be just to allow its uses that are already there
that is correct.
to be permitted. Okay. It's not
Correct.
allowing any new.
And I will say I've had a handful of requests in the past, probably 6 months, of people wanting to put a fitness studio in an industrial zoned
Right.
building. And I've had to tell them, well, that would be a special use permit. There's been a few requests. And when you tell people it's a, 2 to 4 month process, they go elsewhere and find a different building usually.
And I know Steve is the one who requested this, but this would apply to our entire I-1 area, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, so it's not just specific to his buildings. Okay.
Yes.
Steve, did you want to add, you did make the request, so if you briefly want to say something.
We bought this property roughly 20 years ago from Earl Walker. I think you folks might know him. It was his actual childhood home, 111 Prospect. We put a office, and actually bought it from him directly, and I tried to negotiate. I had no chance. Just letting you know, I had no chance. We've had what's now called personal and commercial services within this building literally for 20 years. I currently have 7 therapists / counselors that are in that building right now. Okay. and they're spread out. And what would happen if, say, if they had room A and C, and if somebody wanted to come in and be a therapist in room B, they wouldn't be allowed. They'd have to get a special use permit, which I think it would inhibit some of the things and some of the tenants possibly going in the building in the future if it would cost them $1,000 and possibly 4 months wait to be able to get approval. I've already had estheticians in there. I've had eyelash extensions. I have massage therapists now. I had a waxing person. I have a chiropractor, and I have 7 therapists / counselors in there right now. And I've never heard of a complaint from anyone about any of these businesses. So I feel it would be appropriate to keep it the way it was, and have those services in light industrial. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. All right, questions from council? Councilmember Dewey, anything? Councilmember Gibbons, anything? Oh, I'm going by my list. Councilmember Lipso, anything?
Yes. So, Amy, could you, so I have an old zoning map from 2016, so I don't know if anything has changed, but it looks like pretty much everything south of Prospect to the railroad tracks. And then across the railroad
It's
tracks along
actually,
Brand,
it's-
it's
it-
I industrial, or is that changed?
It's along the Southern Railroad tracks around from, actually, it's from, and it's hard for the map, but from Rose Hill on Kirkwood Road down through Prospect is all industrially zoned. So around where that Southern Railroad track was, and then on the opposite side of the street, I think pretty much the same. And then the rest of the light industrial is all in the Leffingwell area.
Right, so we've kind of got 2 areas
Notes.
of light industrial that, at least for this parcel, Kirkwood Road, Prospect, BNSF tracks, there's that kind of forms whatever, an X or whatever the heck right
Mhm.
there. And then we've got all of the stuff way over by the Union Pacific tracks on Leffingwell, Elliott, Santee, blah, blah, blah.
That's correct.
And I mean, this is much more commercialized, lots of retail, offices, that kind of stuff. And more of a mix over on the other side with true, like, light
Yes, I would say
industrial as
so.
well as strip,
Right.
strip offices. I mean, it's kind of a mix. I'm just wondering. So I was on the zoning, the subcommittee that did the zoning code changes, but I don't remember exactly why it was recommended, and the committee, I believe, approved taking this.
I think
su-
The
su-
thought was more, if you look at retail uses or these commercial, personal and commercial services uses, it's more customer intensive, and then you're mixing that type of traffic in with your big trucks that
Trucks.
are,
Uh-huh.
delivering things. And that was,
So a lot more patrons and need for parking.
And
I
yes,
imagine that may
perhaps
not
do.
be available.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna have to think about this one. Because we're talking about, even though it's a reversion back to what used to be, Kirkwood has changed a lot in the past 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years, surely. And I don't know, the last 3 years, if that's a good test of what may be coming down the road, because we had the pandemic where there was basically a shutdown of commerce. And then, for the past at least couple of years, because of inflation and everything else, the Fed raising interest rates and all of that has also added to the slowdown of the economy. So I'm not sure once things really do normalize and when that does happen, what kinds of requests for, I mean, we certainly are excited about Kirkwood being such an attractive place to come and live and do business. But just trying to be the thought nitpicker that I tend to be.
I agree.
Well, I will give you one example from today too.
Yeah.
The Patriot Sunroom property is for sale, and that is zoned light industrial too. So, somebody wanting to go in there
Mm-hmm.
may fit one of these categories as well.
Well, they would have to go for a special use permit.
Correct.
So that it can undergo a higher level of scrutiny than if it were permitted. Because then it's just, you meet the code, you're in. And I'm not sure that I can predict like a use that maybe we wouldn't, I don't know what it might be. I mean, we have changed the code where, it's like, oh, no, we don't want, cigarettes and alcohol next to the residents. So made a sort of a last minute change there, but Jonathan, hello.
I know Amy mentioned a couple of examples in this area too, or mentioned that there were areas that are developed more like office. So some of the examples on the east side of Kirkwood Road,
Yes,
right south of the No Leash Needed, that whole office complex that are kind of,
Yes.
that's light industrial zoned.
uh-huh,
The office building north of Mako on Kirkwood Road, that's fairly
yes,
new,
that's light
that's light
industrial.
industrial zone.
What?
So there's a lot of and so in hindsight now, I think maybe we were trying to be too proactive or, I don't know. I think we maybe thought about it too hard at the time, and didn't think all the way through how many of these developments we have that are light industrial, that it takes away a substantial portion of their potential tenants. So it's not just, not just this applicant, but there are other developments, even in the Leffingwell area. There's, a newer one that was developed around 2015, 16 that was put in there. That's low scale. They have like a warehouse in back, but office front, right? And it's a mixture office warehouse. And so there's, and that's why staff, and over the past 5 years or so, this kind of micro officing has really been driving, small office spaces, really been driving a lot of real estate. And so I think just looking at making sure that our development areas are
Flexibility.
keeping up with the times and have
Yeah.
flexibility, right? I think this is where this was brought to us, and we thought, in hindsight, after reviewing it, it probably makes sense to consider reverting back to not, one of the big goals of that whole 2021 process was to make things streamlined, right? And I think this is a case where we may have gone the wrong direction, so.
Well, and I mean, propose to bring this back instead of looking at maybe rezoning the parts that are close to the Big Bend, Kirkwood Road area.
Yeah, I'm always leery. You're talking about rezoning the the various I-1 properties that are developed more like office properties.
Yeah.
I'm always leery of rezoning properties without the property owner initiating that. I think there are better. I think this is a better solution. Because even anyway, yeah, I mean, we talked about, I don't think staff would recommend this at that.
Let's say, because the list is not all encompassing right now and we can't predict what somebody might come up with in 10 years. I don't know. Is there a way of, I mean, because once it's, like I said, once it's permitted and it meets all the criteria.
Yeah, so there are other safeguards. You mentioned parking, right? So we have parking requirements. So each of these, I mean, they still have to meet the parking requirement. We'll look at, I mean, there's still nuisance codes, right, and things, but if there are, and if we monitor things constantly, we hear about complaints, and as the applicant mentioned, we're not aware of any complaints at this building or other areas for all these, where there are this other instances of micro office in the light industrial area. It hasn't caused a problem yet. So, and it would be reactive at that point, but if we find out that somebody was creative, thought of something new and we thought, yeah, that fits there. And then it started to create issues. We would have to pursue it for the issues that it's creating. And then we could change the code at that time to stop that from happening again.
On
Um,
any future.
Any future, but if it's creating traffic safety hazards or whatever, we would pursue those, you
Mhm.
know, as the nuisances or whatever.
If I may, the other way
Yeah,
to
sure.
sort of address some of the problems is to go back to the old way where you list all of the uses rather than having
Yep.
this grouping. If you really want to go back to the history, we had
Yeah,
lists
it
of
was
things
a
that
big, long list.
completely went out of business, and then as times change, you don't have a category for all of these uses. So that's why the consultant and staff said, rather than having these individual uses that Amy gave an example of, the barbershops, the beauty salons, the health therapy, those are all lumped together now. But if you want to analyze each and every use, then we'll go back to the old way where I come forward with my use and you decide, can I pigeonhole it into one that's already listed there? Or do we have to amend the code and add my particular use to it? I mean, fitness centers were not part of the I industrial until very recent.
Mhm.
So you had a different category all the time. You go back and there's so many things that have changed over time. The example I always give is, remember back in the day where there was a gas station?
Just a
There
gas
wasn't a
station.
7-Eleven, there wasn't a, they weren't selling food. So we fought about, is this a convenience store? Is this a gas station? And you
Car
have
wash.
multiple uses and
Right.
got to the preferred grouping of these kinds of uses where they kind of make sense together. And if you find that one doesn't fit, well, then you gotta amend your definition.
Mm-hmm.
That's much better than rezonings, I'll tell you that.
Square footage limitation. Thought there was something about a reference to B1, B2 being a 2,000 square foot.
There is, and that was mostly, I think, in reaction to a fitness center that was proposed in the past downtown, that if it's smaller, that may be appropriate in B1 and B2, but not a large 10,000 square foot business.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still have more questions about this, but this will handle it for the moment. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sears?
I don't have questions. I did have some comments to make, but I'll make them when it's more appropriate. We have this before us as it's actually on the table. But as far as the hearing go, I just want to comment after for what has been said that, we're forever putting together a jigsaw puzzle that's never going to be finished. And as we try to put pieces in different places, sometimes, and it's always very qualified, very smart people and citizens coming up with, where they think the puzzle piece ought to go. And then all come to a conclusion, we pass something, say, yeah, it should go there. And then when we actually put it in the spot, it doesn't fit. There's no, everybody did their best. Everybody applied all of their background and history and education, everything to do it. It just didn't work out. So it's wise for us to be able to recognize when that's happened and just take care of it. And this seems like an opportunity to take care of it. The rest of my comments, I'll save.
All right. Anything else from council? Do we have anyone wishing to speak on this statement?
Mayor and council, there are no requests for comment at this time.
So with that, this public hearing is over, and this item will be on our new business agenda on January 18th. Thank you. All right, now we'll go to public comments.
The public comment portion of the meeting is an opportunity for the city council to listen to comments from citizens. It is not a question and answer session, and the city council will not respond to comments or answer questions during this period. The mayor may refer any matter brought up to the city council to the chief administrative officer or the city clerk if actions is needed.
Thank you, Bridget. Do we have anyone wishing to speak this evening?
Mayor and council, there are no requests for comment at this time.
All right, then we will move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Now, we have a second? And a motion is second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing no consent agenda is approved. We'll go to unfinished business, Bill 11013.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance amending the Kirkwood Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 6, Section 14-324. Prohibited stopping, standing, and parking areas enumerated, subsection A2 on a sidewalk by excluding Ponca Trail between 1 through 30 Ponca Trail to allow vehicles to be parked on the sidewalk.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Litzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears,
Yes.
Bill passes. Bill 11014.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance amending the Kirkwood Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Article 8, Section 14-398, routes on which operation of commercial vehicles restricted, to add Scott Avenue between Leffingwell Avenue and South Woodlawn Avenue.
Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Litzo,
Yes.
Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Bill passes. Bill 11015.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance adopting a revised City of Kirkwood classification and pay plan effective January 8th, 2024.
Any questions or comments? Councilmember Litz?
I have one question. I'm sorry I didn't ask this last time, Russ. I think somewhere in the recitals, there was, reference to, maybe a discussion with other municipalities on, like, what, not just going by CPI, but maybe being on par with, CPI with other, nearby municipalities. Could you talk to that a little bit about this?
Well, I mean, we always look at comparators, and there are, I'd say, informal analyses just to get a feeling on the trend of where others are in the process, just as an approach to make sure that we're not out of line with some other places. So it wasn't formalized. We do have a formal compensation and benefits review underway currently, as you all are aware, and have authorized. That particular review will be complete in mid to late January, in time for us to adjust the recommended budget, which you're going to have an opportunity to do.
But the 2.5%, CPI is pretty much on par with other, at least on par with what other municipalities are doing.
So it is on par with where we believe it should be based
Okay.
on the preponderance of the analysis that we've done.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else from council? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Litzo,
Yes.
and Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Bill passes. We'll go to new business, Bill 11016.
So this is an ordinance appropriating $1,788,973.83 from the Certificates of Participation Series 2024 to the Fire Department rolling stock account contingent upon the issuance of the Certificates of Participation Series 2024 and accepting the bid of Sentinel Emergency Solutions in the amount of $1,788,973.83 pursuant to an HGAC cooperative contract for the purchase of a Rosenbauer mid-mount 100-foot tower ladder for the fire department and authorizing and directing the Director of Procurement to issue a purchase order.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Litzo?
Yeah, Russ or somebody, could you please explain how this, I'm thrilled to see that we could possibly save $97,000 by immediate approval. I'm just wondering how does this whole thing work as far as I emailed you and I'm still not 100% positive on how this whole transaction.
Okay, so I
Thanks.
can give you probably a better explanation face to face here than I could on the email.
And that's
because-
fine.
Okay. Basically, in order to preserve this price, we need to order the product. In order to order the product, we need an appropriation from council of the monies from the certificates of participation. Those monies do not transfer hands out of the holding account for the certificates of participation when we order the product. When the product is delivered, that is when we pay. So we expect the actual payment to occur either late FY '25 or sometime in FY '26.
Okay. Okay, that's, okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Good, because my reading of it was like, what? We're gonna have to pay like immediately when we, you
But
know,
by
sign
ordering
the
now, we
agreement?
preserve that price.
Yes,
If we
okay.
wait, we don't get that guaranteed price, and we can save 97,000 by ordering now.
Save 97,000 and also possible another 6% or whatever if we were to delay
Correct.
all of that. So this is
Correct.
great. Okay.
Mhm.
That's all.
We have to appropriate the money even though it's not going to be spent, so.
Yes, yes.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarity, that appropriation will not be reappropriated forward for the next fiscal year because it's going to be in the budget.
Okay,
So you don't have to reappropriate.
okay. Thank you.
Anything else from council? Seeing nothing further, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Bill passes first reading. Bill 11017.
Mayor and council, this is an ordinance authorizing the city of Kirkwood, Missouri to enter into a lease purchase transaction, the proceeds of which will be used to pay all or a portion of the costs of acquiring certain property, constructing improvements within the city, and other costs related thereto, and authorizing the execution of certain documents and actions in connection therewith.
Is there a motion for approval? Get a motion, get a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, all in favor of first reading, please say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Bill passes first reading. Go to Resolution 2024.
Also, this is a resolution amending the contract with Kolb Grading LLC by increasing the amount by $70,000 for a not to exceed amount of $719,285.95 for City Hall and Police Department parking lot improvements, and authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an amended contract.
Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Is there a second? Is motion second? Any questions or comments? Councilmember Gibbons?
So the parking lot is finished, is that correct?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah. So I don't understand how the contractor didn't know about the inlets or the sidewalk, at the time that they,
At the time that they bid.
yeah.
Maybe Chris can elaborate on that.
So the reason for this amendment is three things. First of all, the number of inlets that were shown on the plans versus how many inlets were shown in the bid documents were different. And so there was an error in the bid documents. So there's 3 additional storm inlets we had to add. And so that was one of the issues.
So the bid documents are ours
Yes.
and the plans are ours.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
somehow,
So it was an error on our part
I see.
for the inlets. We ran into basically very thin pavement on our parking lot. And if we would not have taken care of it, we would not have had a long-standing parking lot. And so we made the necessary base repairs for necessary to pave.
And then what about the sidewalk?
So the sidewalk, there was some small panels that were replaced that were not originally shown on the plans. And when we got into the project, we had to add some sidewalk to it.
Anything else from council? Thank you, Chris. All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Litzo,
Yes.
and Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 3, 2024.
Mayor and Council, this is a resolution accepting a proposal for underwriting services in connection with the proposed delivery by the city of its certificates of participation. City of Kirkwood, Missouri lessee, Series 2024A, and taxable certificates of participation, City of Kirkwood, Missouri lessee, Series 2024B, and authorizing and acknowledging certain matters pursuant to MSRB rules in connection therewith.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Griffin,
Yes.
Councilmember Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilmember Dewey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gibbons,
Yes.
Councilmember Litzo,
Yes.
and Councilmember Sears.
Yes.
Resolution passes. We'll move on to city council reports. Report? Anyone? All right. Chief Administrative Officer report,
I have nothing to report this time, Mayor.
attorney report.
I have nothing to report. A new year.
I hope city clerk has something to report.
Somebody's got to report something.
Yes, I do, Mayor. I have a report from the Planning and Zoning Commission. At the January 3rd, 2024 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission the following action was taken. By a vote of 7-1, the commission recommended approval for the major subdivision at 111 West Rose Hill to divide the property at 111 West Rose Hill Avenue from the Manor Grove property addressed as 711 South Kirkwood Road. Legislation will be drafted for council consideration. As there is no business for the January 7th meeting, the next meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission will be held on February 7th, 2024.
Thank you. And I failed to thank Chief Silvernail and Chief Zeitz for being here in case they were needed for the ladder truck. Thank you. And with that, the next meeting of City Council is 7 p.m., January 18th. This meeting is adjourned.